So thank you everyone for coming to construction. So Mark Renar and Strand and Snowflake will be leading the construction class. However, due to the situation, we've ran into some undesirable base placements. We'll be explaining what that is as we go along. So it's not up to the full blueprint, but you'll know why. It gives us a talking point to bounce off of. So this is an ESF base. Now, typically that is built on flat terrain, not the bumpy terrain you see. So there's a different base type we would normally build here, but just for demonstration purposes, we had to build at this location just due to mat constraints. But nevertheless, let's go ahead and talk about what it is. So an ESF base, that's for squads. So we're talking about a group of about 5 to 6 people. If you are below that, then you might want to consider just making a regular router base, which we already have made. We'll be going over that a little bit later. So let's go ahead and go over this base. So as you can see, it's an ESF base. So we have an ESF tower or terminal over there. We have the infantry tower and various placements. Now these placements, they're not unintentional. Everything here is a purposeful placement. However, this is not the most ideal placements for some of these constructs, but we'll be going over that. Well, let's go ahead and start with the infantry tower. So the infantry tower, in this base design, you want to build that first, and you're going to want to align the silo with this wall over here. Now, you see this wall. You're not going to want any gaps between these walls, so you're going to want a complete box. And this corner is not perfect. Ignore that for now. And over here, now, ideally, you don't want this jutting out like this. I only had to do that because of this rock right here. So and that's another reason you're going to want to avoid building at these locations with this base type. But as you can see, I made do. There's no gaps on this side. There's a wall that goes this way. You're going to want to use 3 pane spires. So you're always going to want to put a pane spire on the backside of the infantry tower here, like so. 1 on the other side of the silo, and 1 with the ESF terminal. Now, when you build the ESF terminal, you're always going to want to place the stairs facing the pane spire and the fork section facing towards an anti-infantry turret, which we have here, as you can see. So an ESF base, because it's for multiple units, it's a little bit different than building a one-man router base. Now, one-man router base, you can put the pane spire in the garage. In this case, since it's for more, then the way you defend this base is by having multiple spawn points. So, in fact, we have 3. We have the spawn tube here, as you can see in the back of the infantry tower. If you go up onto the top of the infantry tower, once I get there, you can see a router. So we do this because if an infiltrator comes in, if they're inexperienced at construction themselves and they think just blowing up your spawn tube is going to keep you from spawning in. But if you put multiples in here, oftentimes they don't even think to look up here. Plus, if you have a pane spire down below, like I put it, then they're going to be burning up, so they may not even want to come up this way. So that's some extra protection. So having a additional spawn points is an asset when you have a squad. So let's say, for example, your base gets attacked and you spawn into the router up here. So if you notice, there's specific placements for the modules. So when you're up above, you can look down and you can see the modules. You go to the second floor. You can't see them on the back so well, but if you go over here, then you can do the same. So you have a clear view to the modules as well as the modules over here. So that's intentional because you're going to want, when your base is attacked, you're going to want to assess the damage that maybe an infiltrator has made to your base or whatever's been attacking. Okay, so on that note, the third spawn point is inside of the Sunder garage over here. So you can see there's a Sunderer, which somebody had put in already. And it has the addition of a reinforcement module. So the reinforcement module, basically that turns your Sunderer into a third router. So not only do you have a router in the infantry tower, the Sunderer itself, anybody can spawn into that across faction-wide with the help of the reinforcement module. And let me look and see what kind of sunder this is. Is this a deploy sunder?
Yes.
Okay, so the deploy shield is the kind you'd want to put in here, and the reason is it's extremely hard for an infiltrator with accordion bomb to destroy, and that's what you're going to run into most. So if you have the setup here, so you have the spawn tube where I put it, you have the router and infantry tower, you have the deploy shield sunder, that's going to frustrate an infiltrator who's trying to kick you out of your own base because they can't do it. It's impossible. Because even if they succeed and get rid of your router and the spawn tube, then they can't do anything with this deploy shield sunderer unless they become a different type. Now, on that note, when they see that you have the setup, it may force them to switch to different types. So usually what they switch to is a light assault. So if we go back onto the top part of the tower, you'll notice that there's a skylight on top. Now, the skylight, that can be breached. So somebody who wants to get up on top of here and void your pain spire, they can go on the top of that and they can get rid of your router. So, and I'm not an engineer right now, so I can't do it. So, but what you can do is you can put a claymore on both sides of the stairs on the top section, and you can put a Spitfire turret facing downward. So say if somebody was to charge up, usually if the pain spire's hitting them, it'll kill them before they get up. In the case of a light assault, it will oftentimes kill them before they even get down because they can't shoot through that shield itself. They have to physically get inside, and then they're dealing with the claymores and the Spitfire. So that's how you protect this kind of a base. So, and again, as far as the modules, you're going to want to place those where you can see them when you're coming out of the infantry tower. So notice the pain spire placements. So I have 2 blast shields here. Now that's intentional, and the reason it's intentional is you're going to want to shield the sections where your pain spires are, and we have this pain spire that's close to the entrance to the infantry tower. Now, what this does is this keeps a enemy infiltrator or whatever class they are from coming in direct, because what they'll do is they'll try to get rid of that first, and they'll usually do it by shooting at it with vehicles. And the reason they do that is because if you're inside of a vehicle and you're an enemy teammate or team member, then the pain spire is actually not going to affect you. It's a glitch that they use to get past that. And so this prevents them from destroying it that way. And the fact that it's closed in, it's less likely that they'd accordion bomb this section here like this, although they might. And likewise, that's the reason that this turret here is placed the way it is. It's this anti-vehicle tower, is to prevent them from coming in with vehicles and blowing up that pain spire. So, notice the placement back here of the anti-infantry tower. This is placed wrong, and that's partially due to the fact that there's this rock here, and also this is the wrong type of terrain for this. So again, as I stated, this kind of base is for flat terrain. If you have this kind of base, then you're going to want to build a narrow base. So the correct base is one where you would place 2 walls in front of the entrance, so it extends it. It makes it very narrow. You can build that kind of base on here fairly easily, but this kind of base doesn't work right. So normally you would have the pain spire on this section more towards this wall here, but I couldn't place it due to this rock. And you would place the anti-infantry turret so it can shoot to the back of your silos. So this is actually a very poor placement as far as this base, and it's vulnerable to being attacked because of that. But ideally, you would want the anti-vehicle or anti-infantry turret to shoot to the back of your silo, as well as have no gats back here. And this section right here, between this wall and the silo, you can defend from inside of the infantry tower itself. So that's how that works, but don't copy the way this base is. Just copy what it is I'm telling you, because it's part of this is incorrect. So, are we being shot at? Okay, so let me get in there real quick. I don't know who was in there. Okay, good, you left. So one thing to note is when you place down your AI modules, that's the modules that control your infantry towers or your anti-whatever towers, you're going to want to make sure that the anti-infantry tower can shoot around its own. And the reason is because an infiltrator may try to accordion bomb that, and you're going to want it to shoot them. So if you place it too close, you'll run into the issue of them being able to accordion bomb it because your anti-infantry tower can't shoot them. So that's it. You're always going to want to place that within 20 to 25 meters away from your anti-infantry tower. So that's about it for this base as far as it's covered. So let's go ahead. Let's go ahead and get into the Valkyrie up above and go to the other base, and we'll discuss that. Is that everybody? I think we're missing some people.
I can get in the vehicle.
We have one in a Mosquito and one in another Valkyrie.
Okay, just follow the Valkyrie, guys.
Oh, is it hard for the base?
Now, the low cordium, is that the other base you built, Markinar?
Yes.
It's a bug because this one's got 20k.
What happened?
Okay, so everybody go ahead and jump out, and we'll talk about this base. Oh, okay, so you were able to get the Pain Spire into the Sonar Garage. Good.
Sure was.
Okay, so this is a one-man router base, and the reason we say one man is because it's really just made for just very few people, so maybe 3 at most. Again, if you have a lot of people, you're going to want to build an ESF base, not one of these bases. And again, you're going to want to build a base type that's appropriate for the terrain you're on, which in this case, this is good terrain for this kind of base. So a couple of key points here. So going back to the issue that there's a glitch as far as the game's concerned with the Pain Spire and vehicles. So notice something about the space here. We do have blast shields in front of the garage, and the reason is that's to prevent or hinder the enemy from driving a vehicle into your garage, because they'll use that to destroy your modules. So if you look inside of the garage, we have their standard setup here. So we have the 3 modules. So we have the repair module, we have the alarm module, we have the shield module, which puts the shield across the entrance, as well as the spawn tube and the Pain Spire. So this is a good setup. Now, do note this won't actually prevent anybody from coming in here and blowing this up, but it'll make it to where it takes longer for them to do so. You will run into situations where the enemy team wants to suicide to blow up your stuff, and this is a situation where they will. So you're going to want to defend it. However, it is more defendable than just not having the Pain Spire here. So I don't see an anti-infantry terminal or rather anti-infantry tower inside of the space. However, the same applies here. So you're going to want to put these stairs of the ESF tower, or rather ESF terminal, as close to a Pain Spire as possible, and have the fork points, the 2 points in front, facing your anti-infantry tower. So I actually would have flipped this around, but it's still good. So like the other one, we have the routing spire. However, the routing spire is not used for the defense of the space. It's used for legitimately putting on points. And you can do like with the other one, and you can put multiple points here too, but try to do that another way with, like, say, for example, a beacon or something else you can spawn into. Even putting a Sunder nearby would work if you absolutely have to. You can make extensions to this sort of base to make it better for squads, or just to turn it into the ESF base when it's appropriate. It really just depends on your situation. All right, so Markinar, Stranded Snowflake, do you have anything to add?
So I was trying to update the base to what you were talking about so they can see it.
Okay, cool beans.
Wasting your damn rockets. Stop. No. No.
So also, if your modules are out in the open, it is appropriate to put some modules between the forks here. And especially when you have your anti-infantry tower pointed into the forks.
If you're dealing with a higher class of base attackers, sometimes I will place an extra repair module outside like this one, because they will see repair module and know that they should kill that before anything else, and that will in turn trigger the alarm module.
What are we doing?
But also, this is not the base critical alarm or repair module. So essentially, this is bait.
Right,
Yeah.
and another note here is that sometimes you do not want to put a sky shield in this kind of base. And the reason is this base tends to be more strategically placed and tactical, whereas the ESF base, you know, the enemy may know where that's at. This one, you're going to want to hide in a spot where they're not likely to look.
Are we
And if
doing
you put
anything at all?
if
What are
you
you gonna
if
say
you put
here?
a sky shield in it,
What's
then
the
you're just
plan,
going to tip
guys?
them off that
Oh,
it's here.
training. Oh, sorry. I didn't see
So
that.
just to be discreet, you're going to want to put that.
Training
Whether or
for
not
what?
you put one in there, you're going to want to do that at your own discretion.
There's a certain tactical value in
I'll leave
making
you
your
guys alone
base
then.
look like a random dude put down a silo in 2 buildings and got bored. And so there's sometimes where you may not even want to do the structure shield module if it's far enough out of the way and nondescript looking. That way you can get away with just making it look like a dude put down a silo and then left. But that's far more once you got the experience and the discretion to kind of figure out what works best.
Right. You'll run into situations though where, and especially with 2RAF's reputation of being base builders, is there are dedicated base destroyers who intentionally follow us around. And lately they've been desperate enough to actually spawn in as TR and team kill bases. So they've gone to those desperate lengths to stop us from using our bases for what we use them for. There's not really a defense for that. Just report those people.
Are there any questions about the one-man rider base?
What kind of cordium upkeep do the 2 bases have?
That is a good question. Now I don't know if anyone saw that alert, but
Yeah,
the
we're being
module just
attacked.
went off.
So
It
as
was-
far as cordium, it's just a matter of watching it, because depending upon the size of your base, one base may use more cordium than another. So you're gonna have to keep watching it and getting cordium as needed. Let's yeah.
Okay.
One important thing to note is that repair modules have a low upkeep, but the moment they start repairing things, they will chew through a ton more cordium. And especially if you have something that is already damaged, say, you know, a repair module is down, you fought them off, and you put a new repair module up. I have watched a repair module delete my entire 10,000 cordium as I take it from my ant and put it in the base. If you're in that kind of situation, you are far better off using your engineer repair tool to manually repair as quick as possible.
Yeah, those repair modules suck your cordium dry. Yeah. Shit, you. Fuck off.
So I haven't actually seen anybody in this space, so I'm thinking it might have been a fluke. Maybe it was an ESF flying low or something.
Yeah, I'm fairly certain that was aircraft.
Yeah. I've never seen the style of base be attacked by infiltrators. Usually they just look at it and leave.
So were there any other questions about either base?
Is there any time when you would consider using one of the additional tanks, or is it pretty much always just one tank is fine as long as you keep it filled? Like, if it's during an attack or something, do you want like a reserve of cordium, or is one tank like more than enough of a reserve?
Now, by tank, do you mean silo?
Yeah, silo. Sorry.
So there's minimum distances between silos. So typically constructs wouldn't share a silo. It's just all on one silo.
Okay.
So the range, like the exclusion range for a silo is about 100 meters. Like you cannot build another silo within 100 meters of another one. But if you build one just outside of 100 meters, their circles can overlap. So yes, you could use that as a potential strategy. But typically we don't do that here. That requires like the coordination of multiple builders at the same time. And pretty much all of our layouts are designed around one builder, being as, defensible as possible.
The only situation I can think of would be if, for whatever reason, you need to maintain a high cordium level at the primary base. You could set up a secondary silo purely to feed an orbital strike, so that orbital strike isn't pulling from your main silo. But other than that, we tend to just stick with the one. It's a very niche situation. Now, there will be times that if we need to set up a main base and a router base, but keep them nearby, that would be another scenario. But that's technically two bases with two silos instead of one base with two silos.
All right.
So yeah, are there any other just generic questions about construction in general?
Damn.
I have a question on why you used solid walls at the ESF base.
So that's a common question, and the reason is because the gaps between the default walls, the ones where you can shoot through, if you don't have a shield module that's active, that just leaves you open to being shot at. In this scenario, you're going to want to control your entry points, which means no gaps between walls, and that includes the walls themselves.
Okay.
Now, unfortunately, this means that you do need to complete the Adept directive for construction to unlock the solid walls. You can build this with normal walls if you don't have solid walls, but it'll be a lot more difficult to close it off. A lot more susceptible to fire.
That's another important thing, is that the standard walls have that weird angle kink at the end of them, rather than just a straight end like these do. Makes it a bit harder to put together.
That was more of a terrain constraint here. As ideally, you'd want the wall that's in front to be slanted a little bit more than it is to the right, and the silo to be a little bit more over, so that way it can reach clear over to where this paint spire is. Because the paint spire has a distance of about 100 or so meters between each. So you're going to want to have this wall in the back stretched clear to the end of this and have it enveloped by another wall. So there's a tight corner there, which doesn't exist in the space, and it should.
Don't you try it, Snowflake. Ah.
Does anybody have any other questions?
I'm gonna kill his ass with a damn knife.
So normally what we do at this time is we have a mini operation we do to complete to demonstrate some of these principles. Strand and Snowflake, are you still filming?
Yes, but I'm gonna cut it off before we do any kind of operation.
Okay, let's go ahead and move into an operation.